Hi, my name is Phil Huebner, and I serve as the campus pastor at Wisconsin Lutheran High School.
Hello, I am C.L. Whiteside, Assistant Principal.
The purpose of having this video is that in light of all the recent events in our country and all the hurt and the pains that are going on, we wanted to do something at Wisco, something at our high school where we could serve our students, where we could inform our students and inform others in the public about what goes on inside the walls of this high school, something that maybe could bring healing and help for all those who are hurting. Not too long ago, we saw one of our conference grade schools and churches, St. Marcus Lutheran Church. They had a little panel discussion, and so we had the idea that we would shoot a series of videos as well, where we could just have frank, open, loving Christian conversations about topics of race and everything that surrounds it. So that's what we're here to do today, and we're going to ask some questions to a great panel of students that we have, and we'll just see where God leads the conversation, and hopefully we pray that this blesses a lot of people. So with that, let's get started. CL, you want to start with the first question?
So just with everything that's been going on with the protests, the George Floyd incident, how are you feeling? How have you been handling or dealing with this?
All right, so the first week was kind of tough for me. I had a lot of conversations with a lot of my friends, and then my sister too. Me and her had a really good conversation about it. And I'm not gonna lie, I was incredibly angry. I watched the video and I didn't know how to react immediately. It was really hard for me. I saw it, and the first thing that went through my head was how could anybody do that? And there was just a lot of pain with it. But moving forward, I kind of realized that we can do something from here. It doesn't have to stop with just this guy dying for nothing. We can have conversations about this with people, and that's kind of the good that's come from the bad. Is I've had a lot more conversations with people about this.
On my point of view of it, I was just sad at the fact that things like this are still happening today in the world. I thought we progressed and we made a difference, but it shows that there really hasn't changed. The world is still the same. So emotion that I had the most was just sadness.
For me, I used it as an opportunity. This is a really good time for us to educate ourselves, especially if you don't have a lot of experience with it. For me, it kind of lit a fire under me. I really wanted to help make a change and educate myself and also educate others.
Definitely going along with what Sarah was saying. The first word that came to my mind was finally, and not in the way finally this awful thing happened, but finally we're gonna have a wake-up call to the whole world, and everyone's gonna be able to see where we are and where we need to go moving forward.
And how have y'all conversations been? What have you been talking about when you talk to your friends or you talk to your peers?
Something that we talk about a lot is Black Lives Matter and what that really means. We also talked about the concept of police brutality, what they believe, and just it's been a lot more education than just a normal conversation of this is what I think and this is what you should think.
For me, with the conversation with most of my friends with a different race, it was, you won't understand what I go through day to day, but I'm willing to tell you. I'm willing to not teach you, but make you aware. Because now that I have friends of different race, it's just the conversation was never up. I don't view you that way. You are still a friend of mine, but this conversation came up to we need to learn. Yeah.
I definitely agree with that. For me, it's more taking the focus off of myself and just listening, taking a moment to take a step back and try to understand, even though I won't be able to understand, but listen to their stories and help amplify their voice based on my conversations that I have in my everyday life.
For me, for Black Lives Matter, it was kind of I don't know, I guess I kind of just looked at it and tried to process what does this mean for me as in a mixed family. And so my whole thing was how do I go about my life showing that Black Lives Matter and that we're not just there to be there. And for me, I guess my whole life has been a protest of trying to prove just because I'm Black doesn't mean I'm stupid. That's why I try to have a good GPA. That's why I'm trying to go to a good school and stuff like that.
Well, now we're on to this topic right away, and it's a topic and a phrase that causes a lot of division in our country, and that's Black Lives Matter. And as a white person, I know especially other white people want to be, well, I'll speak for myself, but I know a lot of people want to be loving, and they'll say things like, well, all lives matter, right? All lives matter. I know other people sometimes get upset about that topic or that phrase, that group, because there is an organization called Black Lives Matter, and they'll look it up on the internet and say, well, they stand for this and that and the other thing, and now how can a Christian stand for that, because look at what they stand for. So I want to talk a little bit about the concept of Black Lives Matter, because they do. But I also want to help people understand, especially as younger people, the next generation, teens, what does that phrase mean to you specifically? Because I don't think everyone understands what we're even talking about when we say that. So I guess it's a two-part question. What does the phrase Black Lives Matter mean to you personally? And why is it hurtful when people sometimes say, well, no, all lives matter? And I guess I'll ask for Deanna and Corey to speak first on that.
To me, it means awareness. Like, we never said that all lives didn't matter. It's just the fact that this race is hurting. So yes, in me, this is a very close topic to my heart. And for the second question, when they say all lives matter, it's like, this is the scenario that I saw online, actually. It was this house that was on fire, and then this lady was like, help, this house is on fire. And then the lady, who was her neighbor, was like, well, what about my house? Nobody said there was nothing wrong with your house. It's just that this one's on fire. We need help. But what about mine? That's how I feel when people say that all lives matter.
And so you're saying you feel like you're in the house that's in trouble right now, right? And so we
Yes.
need to focus on this right now.
Yes, absolutely.
Great.
For me, Black Lives Matter just kind of projects the idea that we're going through a lot right now. We need everyone else to realize, like, yeah, we feel sad and we feel sorry for our own community, but we need the other communities to realize this and come and help us too. Like, we can't just do it like on our own on this one, most definitely. And then, like, when people respond with all lives matter, I saw like the same thing as Deanna, and I was just like, that is kind of crazy, because I was watching a comedy special on Netflix, and it was by Michael Shea, and he was talking about how it's like on 9/11, like, that's an awful thing that happened in that building. Like, yeah, the buildings got destroyed. But it's like someone saying, or like walking around with a t-shirt saying all buildings matter on 9/11. And it's kind of like, well, the Twin Towers just got like blown up. Like, why would you say that?
Thanks for sharing. Sarah and Bryce, do you want to chime in? Because you both have talked about Black Lives Matter now, so, from your perspective.
Well, for me, Black Lives Matter, like Deanna said, it's definitely about awareness. A lot of people just it's been pushed under the rug for so long, and it's time to finally speak out on it. Not only that Black Lives Matter, but they're also worthy and they deserve everything that everybody else gets, and like their lives matter, and that's like matter's the minimum. They deserve so much more than just to matter. And then when people say all lives matter, it's never really been a question. Like, we've just been handed things based on how like society is, and Black people have never had that opportunity, so it's time for them to get that opportunity, and that's what it means for me.
Oh, when I hear Black Lives Matter, like the first thing that comes to my head is that they just want to be treated equally, which, I mean, shouldn't be too much to ask. Everybody wants that, and everybody should have that. And I think the biggest thing that I think about is there's a lot of like things that I don't have to think about that my friends like Corey have to think about. Like, for example, getting pulled over. He's told me that he's had conversations with his parents of how to act. I've never had to have that. So there's a certain conversation that we need to have in this country. I think that's what they're trying to express, that, Black lives do matter. And when people say all lives matter, they're trying to negate that and turn a conversation into an argument, which again, is wrong.
So what I'm hearing you guys say is kind of something I've suspected for a little while, is that a lot of people, especially I think maybe in the younger generation, you're not talking about a group, like a political group, Black Lives Matter. You're talking more about a movement, right? You're talking more about a change that needs to happen. You're talking about a focus and an emphasis that needs to take place. Is that right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And that's funny too, because I text about 15 to 20 students kind of asking them, what does Black Lives Matter mean to you? Because sometimes adults take things and they run with it, like you said. They look up stuff and they start saying, this is what they mean. I'm like, no, they don't. I was like, you know what, maybe I'm wrong. Let me ask him. So I think Bryce was one of the people that I asked Nate, and I just kept asking students, and it pretty much was the same thing. This is what it means to me. And it was nothing about some organization or trying to say a Democrat or Republican is better. It was more so about, hey, these people are hurting, let's help them out.
You know, we all look at stuff online right now, right? And, you know, from a biblical perspective, of course, we love all people just as God so loved the world and sent his son. So it's not even a question that all lives matter to God. That's an obvious thing. And yet the one neat thing I've heard people say is the example of Jesus, who told the parable that he went out and he sought the one that was lost, the one sheep that was lost, the one hurting one. And this is a particular time where we need to seek out and love those who are hurting right now. So I appreciate you guys saying that. You have a question you want to go to next?
Well, I kind of wanted to ask Sarah and Bryce especially. This is a time where I notice for some white people it is very, they're very timid in what they want to say, and they don't know exactly what to say. Do you ever feel uncomfortable, and are you okay with your discomfort and having these real conversations?
So at first, when this first happened, you know, I had a conversation with literally every single one of my black friends, and I asked them about it. And I'm not gonna lie, the first 3 people who I talked to, it was very hard to have a conversation with, just because like we all talked about it together, and being the only white person there, I didn't want to say something that might have offended them. Mm-hmm. But what they explained to me is like having a conversation like kind of proves that you want to be educated. And I think something that everybody has to remember is like as a white male, I'm never going to understand what a black male goes through or a black female goes through. So when having a conversation, you kind of have to keep your own opinion out of it or keep your own experiences out of it, because my experience is going to be different than somebody else's. Yep. So I think the biggest thing for everybody to remember is just listen, you know, and instead of making it an argument or, you know, trying to prove your point, listen to their point. You know, you're going to become a lot more educated on it, I guess I should say.
I definitely agree. And also just in today's world, a lot of people, we're just afraid to be wrong, and we don't want to admit when we're wrong, and we're like just terrified of making a mistake. But I think it's important for people to remember it's okay if you were wrong in the past. Like, that's normal, we're all human. It's time to move on from that and learn and educate yourself and grow and become an advocate.
You two have done a great job so far of just talking about listening to other people and understanding that you have different experiences. So I guess I want to flip that now and talk specifically to Corey and Deanna. So let's talk about experiences. If you're comfortable sharing, you know, what experiences with racism have you had in your past that you might be willing to share, or examples? Some people say things like, well, I don't believe that still exists today because, you know, we're past that. But I think there are stories that need to be told where the eyes can be opened.
I was at work one day with Nathan, and we were just working, and a white old dude, he came in, and we could tell right away that he was kind of like on something. Like, he wasn't like in the right mindset to be walking around. And so the first thing he said to us was, a white man and a black man, who would win in basketball game? And so I was like, all right, this is kind of funny. Like, maybe like he would win because he's a varsity basketball player. But then it like started getting more serious, and then he was like, I remember him saying exactly, he said, for a colored person, you keep this store mighty clean. And when I first heard that, I was just like, I don't know what I'm supposed to say. Like, am I supposed to like fight him now, or am I supposed to just sit there and just take it? So I just said, well, thank you, like, here's your stuff, you can leave now. And I kind of like try to like get him out of like my work, because it was kind of like just a weird feeling for me, for being like said to the house, like, take him back. Like, I thought that was gone.
I can't remember when, but it was either last year or the year before that. I was learning how to drive with my mom, and we had my brother Logan with me, and we went to the store. I forgot the store. But we went in, and my mom wanted to stay inside. So me and Logan went in, and we were looking for something. I can't remember. Oh, we were looking for shoes. I'm sorry, I have big feet. So so we were looking for shoes, and he was just playing around. I'm like, Logan, get down, sit down. He finally did. Then the worker, who was Caucasian, she walked over, and then she was like, you're awfully young to have a son. I was like, this is not my son. He's like, oh, he looks just like you. I said, yeah, this is my brother. Could have fooled me. I was like, what is that supposed to mean? He said, well, you know, people of your kind have babies really young. I was like, oh, okay. Well, this is my brother, and I'll just leave now. I didn't get the shoes. We just walked right out. I told my mom, she was very feisty, but I said, no, we're not gonna do that. So we just got in the car and left.
So I don't want to assume anything, but I'll guess that maybe those are just one of multiple stories for each of you.
Yeah, most definitely. I feel like most of my experiences, because like my black side of my family, they all live in Tennessee. So when we go down there, I definitely have a lot more stories coming from there. Yeah.
Deanna, is this something that, racist things, is that something you've experienced a lot throughout your whole life, would you say?
I wouldn't really say a lot, but it's like certain situations like 2 or 3 times, but like I can't like officially say it's happened a lot because like a certain person with a different skin tone looks at me different if I'm in a certain area, I can't really label it as racism. So in a way, no, but also yes.
For Sarah and Bryce, as white students here and classmates, just hearing those stories, and I know you guys know plenty about your classmates and your friends, how does that make you feel as white people hearing stories from the other side?
For me, it like literally breaks my heart, because I mean, these people, like, they're in my class and they're like just like me, but just because of their skin color, like they experience different things, and it's really hard for me to hear that just because like I just want to help, and that's like I just feel completely like, God, I lost my words, but yeah, it just really hurts me.
Yeah, it makes me really sad. It's hard to even understand the things that they go through because, I'm white. I can't like relate to that at all. I've never gone into a store and, had somebody tell me to take my backpack off, or I've never gone into a store and had somebody, ask me if I have enough to pay. But when I'm with my black friends, that's happened to them while I'm with them. And, it does break my heart and it does make me sad because what do I do in that scenario? There's nothing I can do, and I think the most that you can do is really just talk to the person who said it. But, it's depressing. It's heartbreaking.
What have you ever addressed that person when that type of thing has happened?
Yeah, so freshman year, me and my friend went over to Pick and Save, and they have a policy of students have to take their backpacks off and everything. And me and him walked in, and when we walked in, there was a lady standing there. She was white, and we walked in together, and she told him, she addressed specifically him, she said, "You need to take your backpack off." But she let me walk right by. And then I continued to walk as he took his backpack off, and I was like, wait, no, that's not right. So I went back, and I said, "Excuse me, why'd you make him take his backpack off?" And she didn't know what to say. She just started fumbling her words, and she was stuttering, and I was like, no, like, I'm gonna take my backpack off too. So I put it on the stand, or the little area, or whatever, and we just went through the store. But it is irritating, and it's heartbreaking, so.
So we go to a high school that maybe a lot of people watching this video would know about, but probably a lot more don't know about. And as it goes in Wisconsin, maybe even in the country, this is one of the more diverse schools, mixed with white and black and Hispanic. We have international students. And I want you guys to talk from the perspective of you're in a place where there is diversity. What is it like? How has it been a blessing? Have there been challenges, good, bad, or otherwise? What's it like to be at this school where we're all together? Because a lot of places you're not together. So what's that like for each of you students?
Me, it's like a blessing and a curse because if I never went to school, I probably wouldn't know half of the people I know now. That's from different countries, different states, and all of that. But even though that I wouldn't reach these many people, is the fact that they don't understand also. I'm not saying that you're supposed to know like the rubric of being black. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that it's harder for them to understand where I will come through if I'm upset about a situation or if something happened and I don't know how to feel about it. They'll just assume I'm supposed to be all right, but you can't really control feelings, so it's a blessing and a curse.
I agree with that. It's such a cool opportunity to like be in a class, and like the girl next to me, like, oh, she's like from Vietnam, and like that's super cool. You don't get to see that in many other schools. But also the flip side of that, when I tell people from other schools, like, oh yeah, I go to Wisco, and then people kind of like, they have a really bad assumption about Wisco just because of the people that go here, and I think that's really terrible. And it's definitely a really good opportunity to tell them like, no, actually it's really cool, and I'm really thankful that I get to go here.
For me, coming to Wisco and it being like very diverse, I guess it is like a really great blessing because it forces us to have conversations like these with everyone and like be able to hear the other side. Because sometimes everyone's so trapped in their community that they don't get to hear the outside, and like they're just fed all this information, and it just sometimes just becomes blockades of like how far can we get with everything going on. So like the biggest thing right now is like everyone needs to be listening to each other, and I guess Wisco is kind of like the starting stone in the community because we're all here together.
I would say that the biggest thing Wisco has like helped me with was just kind of like seeing how the real world is gonna work, because you're gonna meet people from literally everywhere and anywhere, and learning how to like get along with those people. And I wouldn't have had really any of the friends that I have today if I didn't come here. And the blessing of this high school is that you will meet people from all over, whether it's a different country or just a different city. But it's really cool. I would say that the biggest challenge of being here is trying to like get together with everybody, if that makes sense. We've talked about the basketball games before, and we've talked about the lunchroom, and just that's hard because I feel like it is natural for some people to want to be with their own race. But I don't know, like I feel like me and Corey are in the same friend group. I feel like we try very hard to, like diversify. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Sarah, why did they say it was terrible possibly, or why did they assume that? Did they give you a reason?
Well, yeah, like we're a choice school, and that gives a lot of kids a lot of opportunities to come, and that's really great. But people just generalize about that. Not that all choice students are black. Like, I'm personally a choice student, and I'm not black. And people just like, oh, because they have the choice program, well, then, comes with that, like, different problems, and, oh, maybe, like, you must have, like, a rule problem there. Like, you must have a lot of people breaking the rules, and it's really bad. And people just give us, like, a bad connotation because of that, and that's terrible because they don't have that assumption about other schools that are predominantly white, and that's terrible.
Kind of going along with that, I have a story, like, too, where I was around a campfire at one of my friend's house, and, like, it was, like, me and all my friends from Wisco, and then it was this kid and all his friends from another school, and like their school does like this Nerf war battle where like they shoot each other with Nerf guns like all around the city, and like it's all fun and games. And so we were talking like, yo, why don't we get our school to do that too? And then the kid across from the campfire looked at like me and was like, why would you guys do that? You guys would use real guns, wouldn't you? And I was kind of just like what is that supposed to mean? And he was like, well, you guys have like black kids there, that's like a hood school. And I was like, no, like we can still have fun. Like, I don't know why you assume that of us. And I got like really mad at that kid.
Mm-hmm.
It's a sad thing that, these little things that go on kind of behind the scenes that not everyone talks about. Of course, there's the big there's the big news splashes that everyone sees, but then these little things that you experience that sometimes can be so hurtful. So, at our school, maybe we'll have this as like the last question, so it isn't too long of a video here, and we'll get you off the spotlight. But with our school being a Christian school, and Christ is the focus and the center of everything, where do you students see your faith and really Jesus as being important, or like the rock to the conversations, to what's going on in our world right now, to race issues? How do you see your faith as being important to that, and why?
Well, a passage that I think about a lot is when Jesus said, go and make disciples of all nations. He didn't just say, go make disciples of white people, go make disciples of black people. He didn't say that. He said, go and make disciples of all nations. Jesus didn't die on the cross for just me. He didn't die on the cross for just you, right? He died on the cross for everybody. I think just keeping that in my heart, keeping that in my mind when I talk to people, it's really kind of opened up my eyes, and to the point where, I can be friends with anybody, and I hope anybody could be friends with me. I hope nobody looks at the color of my skin and says I don't want to be friends with them, and I hope I don't look at the color of anybody else's skin and say I don't want to be friends with them. So I think that's kind of the coolest thing is, like, Jesus died for everybody, and when we think about that, that should really lead us in the right direction.
Kind of going off of that, having like the faith as a Christian, Jesus is definitely like my stronghold in this scenario right now, where I've like been reading a lot of like devotions or like looking up a lot of stuff and like seeing how as a Christian, like how am I supposed to react, or like how am I supposed to like do something or say something. So I guess it's kind of like the center of like how is everything supposed to work from here, and how can we as Christians like put a good name out for ourselves but also help the others that are hurting.
Me personally, growing up in a middle school, going to church, and going to a Christian high school, religion is everywhere. So don't get me wrong, I'm not saying religion is like not the main focus. It is. God is my rock. God will always be the center of attention. But religion is something that we do every single day. But I also feel with everything going on in the world, we need to bring that more into it. Like, yes, Jesus will always be there for us, help us in everything that we do. But I feel that with racism and everything going on, we just need more attention on that. I'm not saying don't take away attention on God. I'm just saying that we need more attention on other things as well.
Also just remembering that, like, no matter what happens in our world, just the words in the Bible say the same. What Jesus did for you stay the same. And he died for you, and you're going to go to heaven at the end of it all. So it's always good to remember that no matter what people say, no matter what arguments you get into, like, he's still going to be there for you at the end of the day.
Well, we appreciate your time as students coming in and just letting your voice be heard. I know so many of you four and other students in our student body have wanted to do something, to say something, to have their voices heard, and we wanted to give you an opportunity. There's going to be more of this, and there's going to be more stuff for our high school. This is just a little glimpse, but we also want to let everyone know out in the world what Wisconsin Lutheran High School is about, and what we stand for, and how we love our students, all our students, but we also want to help those who are hurting the most. And so our prayer is that people can listen and learn from this, and also take that to heart and think about how they can go out into the world with the love of Christ.